Joel Lopez.
Ken Evans.
Linda Olson.
And each of us kind of has a fair amount of experience in startups and supporting startups and supporting community. And this is really about how there are resources outside of yourself that you can rely on. I had told both of them that I'd recently been at an event, and it really doesn't matter where it was, but a little girl had died, and it turned out that there was no one there to support her family, no one there to support her or mother, and it drew a bizarre little parallel for me in the sense that I also know members of our Barcamp community that sometimes have issues and haven't had the opportunity or just always realize that there are other people in the community that they could have reached out to. And each of us has a unique set of experiences that we've each gone through in building companies, technology-related companies. We've made mistakes, we've watched others make mistakes, we've learned from them, and that we also, all three of us represent different pools of resources, and how you in the Barcamp community might benefit if you're trying to do something on your own, on the side, doing a startup, whatever that might be. And there is no absolutely clear plan. In fact, we have, it's mostly winging it today, except the three of us represent just a series of resources, and all three of us have really worked to making ourselves available for a broader community. And so that's essentially what we're going to be doing here today, is just talk about some of these issues, some of the things we've learned, and really just trying to open ourselves up to say, how can we be of help to you and of service to you, or let you know more about the resources available in the broader community?
I'm just going to start off by thanking everybody here for coming to Barcamp and supporting this, and for participating, and for some of the great presentations we've had, because this is what keeps the passion going. And this is what keeps the visibility of our community, and slice that any way you want, whether it's the developer community, the creative community, just the IT community, or just the tech community, or the engineering community, which we don't talk about often enough, but just the general community that has a passion to do something, and it's either a hobby or a little bit more than a hobby, or you want to make it more than a hobby. There needs to be support for helping you do that. And so I've done that a lot since I moved here 8 years ago, but also did it in other towns, and realized that's some of the differences between the Tampa Bay area and other places that I've lived, is that support has been easier to get. Now, I don't know whether it's a cultural difference or what it is, but it annoys me to the point where I want to do things here in this community so people don't feel like they're sitting on their hands, or people don't feel like they're questioning decisions, or not able to reach out to people and ask a question, a technical question or a business question, and certainly don't come up to the decision point of, do I need to move out of this community to actually go start my company or build my product or find people more like me.
I think I even know some of the questions to lead to you probably sharing that in a second.
Yeah, but I mean, again, thank you for being here, because this is the most important thing that you can do on this one day. Think about the most important things you can do the other 364 to help each other.
Don't you want to mention how Idea Field and co-working could be part of
eventually,
that?
Yeah, but I want to give you guys, I don't want things to throw dodgeball at me or anything.
All right, I'll just keep mine short. About 2.5 years ago, I started down this path of building a web venture here in Tampa Bay called WOMBY. The WOM and WOMBY stands for word of mouth. And started talking with people around town that I thought could help me get my venture launched, just talking with various people. And I would go to lunch somewhere and somebody would say, hey, you heard of Alan Clary and his site Jibbity.com? I'm like, no, never heard of this. I mean, like, well, maybe the two of you guys should get together. I mean, his site doesn't do what your site's doing, but it might be good for you guys to get together. So I go meet with Alan. I'm like, wow, really impressed with what he's doing, and all of a sudden connected with somebody who could speak my language. This is like somebody who gets my challenges. I mean, you talk to sometimes people who think they're advisors or whatever, and I think they mean well, but it's also a different experience to find somebody who's really a peer of yours who is going through the same challenge as you are. Well, I'm talking with Alan, and he's like, well, have you talked with Kevin Hale over at woofoo.com? I'm like, no, I didn't even know about woofoo. I didn't know they were here. I went and met with Kevin and the Woo-Foo guys. I'm like, oh, somebody else who gets it, you know. Next thing you know, I'm talking with a third person. You know, I kept hearing this thing. So in June of 2008, I just called all these people that I had been introduced to and had been trying to introduce to other people, and said, well, why don't we just all get together in a room and have these conversations, because it's just really inefficient. I can't really have 30 different lunches a month with all these different people. And that was the first of the Tampa Bay WAVE meetings. We've been going on, we're in our third year now. It's tampabaywave.org. We finally have a website up. You can take a look at it. But essentially what we do is meet once a month, all founders of web ventures, to what I call fill in our experience gaps through the collective knowledge of everybody else in the group. So, and what's really amazing to me is just how many, and I see a couple WAVE members in the group here, but what's really amazing to me is just how much talent there was here in Tampa Bay, how many great ideas there are in Tampa Bay, how many people are really earnestly trying to build their ventures, yet you know, I'm in the thick of it, and I was still finding out about these folks on a one, you know, case-by-case basis, as opposed to knowing where I could go and find everybody in one place. And I think, you know, that was in the summer of 2008. Here we are, September of 2010, and I do think the overall Tampa Bay tech community continues to get stronger and tighter, and events like Barcamp and other things are part of helping us know who each other are and better support each other. You know, but the WAVE group, I think, is just one example of something that can be done and probably should be done, and I think there's other pockets within the local tech community that could do something similar, just to kind of increase the chances of what I call more successful ventures coming out of the local community here. So.
Perfect. I also want, she set up Ideal Field. I'd love to go back to Ideal Field and Cafe Hay before that, and then actually go back half before that and say part of your motivations, I believe, were when you were in Austin, when you were in Seattle, and the accessibility of other people who would work with business plans or what the venture capital environment looks like. If you'd address that and compare and contrast that, I think that's part of what drove you to the choices you made to get this actively involved in. And I think being able to compare and contrast and let people understand the lay of the land locally as compared to other locations would help build that picture.
Well, I'll jump around a little bit, so I don't want this to seem too much like a fiction, but to just take one chapter of that, I was doing volunteer work and helped organize what, at the time, this is like 3 years ago, was called the Emerging Companies Academy. And you know, although it meant well, a lot of times these mentoring programs or these advisor programs that people try to put together to help entrepreneurs or help startups take a very hierarchical role. And that, for a lot of reasons, doesn't work. So there's a lot of good business talent, a lot of good folks that have, you know, been in business for a long time, different backgrounds. But when you try to glue this advisory board or these mentors or coaches on top of a one or small group of you know, startup founders or freelancers that have an idea, it generally doesn't really get the desired result, because the passion and the fuel for building great products and great companies doesn't come from this hierarchical relationship of you're going to tell me how to manage my day and manage my company. It comes from peer level support. And you know, the more I see, you know, stories like Linda's and meet people here and meet people on a day-to-day basis, I realize that, you know, that's where the emphasis comes. That's where the energy comes for building great new products and great companies on top of that. So to go back to that story about the Emerging Companies Academy, we were doing workshops about once a month to 10 to 20 people that, you know, were at some stages of thinking about a startup or thinking about a product and building something. And I realized that, you know, people were you know, wanting to meet for coffee, wanting to meet for lunch, wanting to do a lot of things outside the workshop just because they had so many questions. So what that evolved into was, you know, once a week we would meet at Starbucks, and then eventually, you know, Cafe Hay down in the Heights, and just from 1 to 4, just sit there and drink coffee and talk about problems. Sometimes tech problems, sometimes business-related problems. and sometimes just get to know each other, not necessarily in a networking fashion, but just kind of get to know each other's backgrounds, and you understood what people's strengths were. It was about that time I realized that people all over the country and all over the world were doing this under one of two titles, either Jelly or co-working, where people would either meet at a Starbucks or meet at Panera or meet in someone's apartment and sit there and hack all day. And it wasn't necessarily a social gathering, because people would actually come and do their work. They would work on a project all together, or they would work on projects completely separately. But having that connection with people that were working on the same type of things gave people energy. It created a peer level support. It also created something very important, which is peer level pressure, which is I'm working on something, and if I meet up with you a week or a month from now, and I've told you about what I'm doing, you better have moved that ball forward. Because if you haven't, you lose credibility with the most important crowd, your peers. So it becomes a level of peer pressure that you don't get in a mentoring type relationship, and you don't get from social networking or business networking. You only get from hanging out and sharing ideas with people that have that same type of passion. You could be working on entirely different projects, you could be working in entirely different industries. You still share that level of passion and that drive, and that's what we turned into co-working, which was at one point once a week at a coffee shop, and then we actually opened up a location by one of the co-founders is Dan Davey at Davey McLean Advertising. We opened up a spare office or two in his building so that we had a place where people could put a couple of IKEA desks. We got a lot of donated furniture from tech companies that were closing the doors. We got a ton of whiteboards and put a whiteboard in every available space and just said, we're not here to make any money, we're here to cover our costs. So if you can chip in a little bit towards rent, come here if you're a freelancer or you have a day job, or you're working at home and the only people you have to talk to is your cat and you never get out of your jammies. That's not good for motivation. So come here once a week, come here whenever you want to, come here and hold a meeting if you're a virtual company. Just get out of the house, get involved in the community, and give your ideas a trial run in front of other people's eyes, because that's the only way that you really get validation that you've got something that's good. So we opened up Idea Field a year and a half ago up in Tampa Heights. We've since moved it to 2 doors north of the bunker on the North 19th. It's just a tiny little casita. It's not more than 800 square feet, but you don't need a lot of room. You just need a place where people can gather and hang out. We run it like a gym membership. You pay monthly, and you go as often as you need to. But it's $49 to work out. I apologize for doing a commercial, but I just want you to know, it's a very, very low entry fee to hang out with people that have the same level of passion. And we run nighttime events there. We've hosted a meeting for Linda's Wave group. The graphic design group uses it. TEDx Tampa Bay is using it as their meeting headquarters and planning headquarters for next year's event. We just want to get it used as much as possible. And I urge you to go out and on Wikipedia or the other ones and look up co-working and just get familiar with what's going around the world. There are co-working sites in every major city, and where I moved here from Seattle, there are probably a dozen co-working sites in Seattle. And that was the one thing that I loved about Seattle that I didn't love so much about Tampa, is I could go into any bar or any coffee shop, find 3 or 4 people that I knew or kind of knew, and run ideas by them and get real feedback, technical feedback, marketing feedback, just another set of eyes, another set of ears to help validate that what I'm working on is going in the right direction, or maybe I need a little bit of help. And that's what we get here at Barcamp once a year, and that's what we need through Tampa Wave or co-working or any number of other meetups that you guys do on your own. Is force your peers to basically talk about their projects. And I know it's tough, because when we first started talking about co-working, people are like, I don't want to share my project, someone else may do that. That's not going to happen. Not if you keep the ball moving forward. And you may just find that co-founder that you've been looking for that has that same level of passion. Talk about your ideas. Don't talk about the secret sauce. Talk about your ideas, though, because you'll find people that will help you with that project, that will help you move that ball forward. And you need people to help you move that forward. Even if it's just, a monthly ridicule that you didn't, do things that you weren't going to do, that you said you were going to do the month before. Make sure that you're sharing those ideas with people, because that will keep you motivated.
I was going to say, just like what you're saying is, the peer level can help hold you accountable to make sure that you are moving the ball forward, he said. But I would also encourage you to to hold other people accountable, hold the other entrepreneurs accountable. And you can say it in a way that says, hey, I thought you were going to do this. Now, I'm only telling you this because I want you to hold me as equally accountable as I'm holding you accountable. But I do think, we will be a better, stronger community if we do it in a mutual effort as opposed to...
Oh, absolutely. You want that. You need someone kicking your ass every once in a while to keep you on track. And that's really what you want. And you want that from your peers. You don't want that from a mentor or a coach, because that's supposed to be a constructive relationship that focuses on growing your business or something like that. But your peers you'll take a little bit more grief from because they're in the same boat. And that's the peer group that you want surrounding you if you're trying to build a product or build a business.
Well, I don't have kids. I know you've got one at home. I've heard a lot of people, parents struggle trying to potty train their child, but sometimes the fastest way to potty train them is to put that child in a room with other kids that are already potty trained. And that potty training will happen much faster when they know that they're the one kid who's not potty trained versus having the parents constantly trying to push them to do that. So I think peer level support is...
Potty training for startups. Book in the mini-series.
Yeah, that's not going to sell.
For people who really know their craft.
There you go.
Do you want to hit on venture funding or just and compare again what the environment was in some other places and what it's here without being disparaging or anything?
Can I make a comment on this? Just
Because I was going to go to you anyway.
Let's say a couple years ago, I went and presented our company up at Startup Riot in Atlanta, which allowed me to actually build a lot of connections up there with the startup or tech community in the Atlanta area. And originally I was thinking, man, the folks who have startups in Atlanta are so lucky that they're not doing it in Tampa because there's so much more support there. But I really don't. I think it's a misperception because as I've gotten to know those people even better, I'm finding out, no, it's equally tough to build a startup in Atlanta as it is here in Tampa. So to me, it's like I don't want to sit there and let geography determine my destiny. I'd rather just focus on building my venture better and stronger and helping other people build better, stronger ventures here in Tampa. And I think, it's like there are some pockets out there.
City envy and venture envy are just destructive to your idea.
So there's, Seattle, Silicon Valley, maybe Boulder, maybe Boston, but I don't think there's very few pockets. It's not like we're alone in Tampa, and the rest of the country has so much an easier time building successful ventures.
Well, again, the openness in those communities set the ground rules. They set the table stakes. No one in those areas, unless they have a name and they've done it before, would think about going and raising money unless they've done something, created a prototype, done something that is a tangible validation of their product. And here, with the Emerging Companies Academy and other things that I'm involved in, people were constantly coming to me with an idea and wanting me to help raise money. And that's not the way it works.
That is really what I wanted to bring home.
If you've got a name and you've raised money before and you've either failed tremendously or taken it over the goal line, because either one gets you credit in the venture community, then you may have a little bit less friction in going out and finding money. But for the most part, you got to build something. You got to have something tangible. You have to validate your idea. You have to get to someone who's not drinking the Kool-Aid on your development team or in your company and just say, would you use this? I don't even ask, would you buy this? Because in most cases, I just want them to be able to use it. The use, buy, need, want, all those are big discussions. If you could just get someone to use it, take some time out of their day to use it, in their professional, personal life, and then if you start with one person and then maybe get 6 people saying they'd use it, maybe you've got some trends of something that's usable. If all you do is go to friends and family, or again, some guy that's willing to say he'll raise money for you, well, he's going to say, yeah, that's great, that's wonderful, it's the best thing since sliced bread. No, you got to get to real users, validate that. And in other towns, I think that it's known, it's table stakes. People realize that if you haven't built something, you don't have the right to go out there and ask for help or ask for money.
May I interject something here? It's kind of an analogous situation to Hollywood versus Florida. we have a very similar climate in the way that year-round people can film movies here, and we're just not given the kind of support, the tax breaks, or the infrastructure that Hollywood needs to make movies in Florida. But yet the miniseries, the short films, and some of the TV series are here now. Is it not similarly true with Silicon Valley versus Florida and the tech corridor in some of the ways that companies treat them a little bit differently? And I granted the experience is out there, the name recognition is out there with some of those ventures, and the people who have been successful or granted huge failures of the known technical ventures. I mean, this is really a frustrating point for a lot of people who have tried, failed, or succeeded and just not gotten the kind of money that's available. I mean, we're talking percentage-wise, 10% versus, the billions of dollars that's in Silicon Valley.
There's definitely some truth to that in terms of where some of the more traditional, like venture capital money pockets are, that when they hear of something that's not in close proximity to them, they kind of dismiss it quickly. But I don't think it's always because of the, they don't believe the idea is good or the development team is
Sure.
good. It's just, especially in early stages, if
That's
they
the
want-
worst.
Right?
Yeah.
They want to know that they can be close to their investment. If you're going to go put several $1 million into a company, you're not going to just write a check and then not be connected with it. You want to be there and see it firsthand. You want to visit frequently. Flying across country or even flying from New York is a tough thing. On top of that, a lot of these guys with the money, because they've invested in the past in other companies, they have an idea of who they want to see on the management team of that. And they know whether those people are local or not.
Good
and
point.
so, like, what they want to do often, when you're talking, especially venture capital money, is they want to put this in there, but they also want to influence the company and the team structure because they think
They want it to succeed by,
Right,
at the end of the
right.
day. Right.
So if all the resources they think this venture needs to succeed are in San Francisco or New York, then chances are they're more likely to invest in a venture that's starting in San Francisco and New York. It's hard for them to invest in Tampa when they think, wow, this company needs so much, they need more than just capital, and I can write a check, but I can't do the rest of it, and thus I just don't feel that good about the
Very good.
venture.
Also, VCs don't like to say no, so a lot of times geography becomes a way to have an excuse rather than say no and offend someone. You say, boy, if you're only in the valley, or if you're only in the corridor, or in Boston, like, yeah.
I'll move tomorrow.
And sometimes they get that as well, but
Sure,
honestly, they'll invest in us if they move thing. I see that happening when the company is raising its very, very first round. They haven't had any outside capital, they haven't had any angels, both investing or advising, and a lot of times it's a husband and wife or a very too close-knit management team, and they realize that there may be a good product under there, but they have to break the product away from the founders. Which that moving is one of the ways you do that. If there's a good diverse team, maybe a little bit light on management talent, but they're not just drinking the Kool-Aid, it's not a little incestuous relationship with the product and the family, then I think they're probably more willing to leave it alone and let it grow. But again, it's better if you've got some early stage money, angels.
With 3S.
Well, yes,
Friends,
friends,
family,
family, fools, yes, but then also found a little bit more money and some passion and a checkbook. But if you're going right to the VC and it's the first money you've raised and you've got a lot of management team problems, then yeah.
Right.
That's-
I think what
They may want to
local
move you because
ventures-
you've got a good core product, but they just want to break you
Sure.
away from the product.
What local ventures, we're talking about Tampa Bay, it's probably true in other areas too. If there was a better source of seed or angel capital, I think you might see more ventures, more excitement, maybe more success. But again, what I was saying about venture capital companies wanting to be close, it's even more true, I think, when it comes to angel investors. It's very rare to find an angel investor from, let's say, the Texas area who will invest in Florida. At least, if you're talking about that, I don't know.
Unless he owns a home here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
They want to be on your board or involved directly.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would just recommend is if you're talking to somebody here locally about your venture and they are telling you they are an angel investor, ask them when they wrote their last check. If it doesn't
Good
have
question.
a
Yeah.
2 in front of that year, walk away.
Well, you bring up a good point. And I didn't want this to be about investing because it's the last thing I'd like to talk about in the startup world.
In fact, as soon as we're done, can we change the discussion about how they can participate with each other
Yes.
and other
Yeah.
resources?
Well,
Because we only have 7 minutes.
Let me
so-
just close that because I wanted to get some questions as well.
That's the answer.
Yeah, the first thing that you're doing can't be looking for money. You have to be building product. The second thing is, if anyone approaches you with investor or banker or anything like that in their title or their company title, and they talk about raising money, ask them if it's their checkbook they're working with. Because like a lot of towns, we have a lot of brokers that will help you find money. Those are not the people you want to talk to. You don't want to pay someone to go find money. You want to find people that actually have checkbooks. Even if they're small checkbooks, those are the people you want to be dealing with.
If a broker is going to put some of their own money and they're good, and they've recently raised money with a 2 in it.
If they've raised money, but if
Exactly.
they're just trying to network with their money.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
point is, have they done it successfully before,
Yeah.
in the last 5 or 10 years, and are they putting their own money behind it?
Yeah, do you have a fund, I guess is the right word.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, if, even someone who's writing a $50,000 or $100,000 check out of their own pocket,
Yep.
then they're committed to your profit, but not someone who's asking you to write them a 10 or 20 or 30.
Or just someone who's saying for the piece of the deal, I'll help you go raise money.
Exactly.
No.
So again, we started this with how can we as a community draw upon each other the rest of the year and be there for each other. So
Well, since we only have 6 minutes left, I want to ask you guys, what do you want out of the session? Are there any questions you want us to answer in the last 6 minutes? And we'll tie the community piece into that. Yes.
I just discovered Wave through all the Barcamp tweets going on this week, and I'm anxious to join and start attending and meeting. But one problem that I've found that I've had in Tampa Bay is the talent issue. Now, I got very lucky with my developer here earlier, but I had to interview a lot of people to find somebody that wasn't like somebody that was actually
I
like
still
a
think that's the
startup
biggest gap
mind,
in this
startup
community.
kind of development mind or business development, whatever function it may be. Is there any effort to, aside from just the networking and meeting people in person, to say like, okay, here's a monster.com of the Tampa Bay area of people that are working on, how do you help pull out some of the people that are at these bar camps and at other events that would
Yeah,
be good
it's
to
interesting,
contact?
because with the Wave Group, we've talked about whether or not we are gonna help people find the talent or really stick to what we originally were, which is we're people who already have the team in place and the technology in place, and we're just in that like maybe final steps of polishing up that web product and entering into that product market fit stage and trying to to monetize it and things like that.
TMPBY is trying to do,
Say,
it's kind of a collection of local
It's like
talent.
Tampa Bay, but without vowels.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. Actually, Brian Burge with the Wave Group and Dan Denny worked on that. That's one thing. I do think that's one of the biggest, I guess, chasms still in our community is really helping to bridge that goal right there. Because people approach us all the time with, I've got a great idea, and I'm like, but we don't help you find the talent. We have a specific thing, but I think there's other ways the community can step in. Tampa Bay is one of them. Network. The one thing I can tell you is you gotta
Kiss a lot of frogs.
Yeah.
Yes.
You gotta try out a lot of people on the kind of the personal / light professional.
Check references.
Yeah, and really see what they're all about and work on some projects together.
Actually,
Date before you marry, and then work on very tiny, small scope first, and see how that goes. And if that's successful, then add another thing, but don't necessarily go and hire, the person who's going to build your venture with the entire venture at mind. I think you can date
I'd
before
like
you get married.
to reaffirm one thing, which is, and that is one thing that absolutely can come out of this, which is if you're about to bring someone in or you're going to hire a professional, make sure you get people in your community that that have hired them or that they give you a list of references, but more importantly, it's much better if someone you know has worked with these people before, and they can state whether or not those people have delivered the product before or not, successfully or not, because there are lots of people with fantastic resumes, but they have a history of not delivering, but you don't know it and you wouldn't know it. And the only way you're going to know it is from your friends or from other people you know that have done business with them. And so that'll allow you to not make those mistakes that can cost you 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand.
The other thing
Get thrown
I'd say
small
too,
projects.
the other thing I'd say too is every venture is different. So while you might be talking with somebody who is a very talented developer, if they haven't really had experience building something that is in the same vein as to what your idea is, even if they're the most talented developer, they still might not be the right developer for your project. So it depends on the, I mean, I really think it's kissing frogs, having a tighter community so that everyone kind of knows who the go-to people are for your specific venture.
Really nail down your expectations.
I have a comment and a question. The first comment I would have, if you want to try to kiss a few frogs, pair. Do some test-driven development and pair with the person you're interviewing. You will get a feel for how they code by pairing with them. If they can't solve a test case or generate a test case on their own, if you're developing an agile methodology, you're going to find out real quick. And you're going to find out what level they're at real quick by the questions.
But we're also saying lawyers, accountants,
Oh,
the
sure,
entire
sure.
gamut.
I'm just talking from a developer because the developer now. The other one was Co-working Orlando. It was here a couple years ago, and they're still around. They're over in Orlando, but there's a geographical distance, not a large one. Yeah, and they drive over. We have people come back and forth all the time. So I don't think it's just the Tampa area. There's Orlando as well to draw upon. It's not just Tampa.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll make a comment, if I may. I have sat in front of all three of these people at one time or another and asked their advice, or have asked them questions about where to get the right advice. And I can tell you, not only are they very talented, but people in the room that have helped organize Barcamp, other people that you know in this area, are extremely friendly and more than generous with their time. Please take advantage of these resources. This is probably the gold mine of Tampa Bay, because I come from Chicago. It's not a big friendly town like everybody thinks. You don't get this kind of free advice, okay? This is awesome stuff. I want to thank them personally, because I consider them all friends that I've worked with in the past, at least on that consultative basis where, do you know a guy? That's the best question in the world. And every one of them has introduced me to somebody else as valuable. So take advantage of these resources, folks.
And build something, please.
Yep.
And stay in Tampa.
Discussion list for this for Barcamp Tampa?
I'm sorry, what kind
Is
of?
there a Google group or a discussion list or anything?
I don't know if anybody has created the discussion list.
Meetup.com, Barcamp Tampa Bay.
Meetup.com.
But is everybody who attended on the, on?
Yeah.
There's 420 on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks in the last 3 years who have participated there, and they're really great about getting back with you. So, I mean, great resources in the Bay Area.
I want to thank Ken and Linda for being here. It was very kind of them.
Thanks, guys.